Magical Connections by Lisa McSherry, read by Christina Ayala. I obviously don't own this book. I'm just practicing reading aloud. I hope you guys enjoy. We're at chapter 4, Becoming a Leader. Chapter 4, Becoming a Leader. With rare exceptions, good leaders are made, not born. In some cases, a person is nominated to leadership by popular acclaim, but in spiritual circles, the role usually comes as part of the call from the god or goddess. For many of us, the call comes when we're feeling unprepared to lead, but if we have the desire and willpower, we can develop our ability and become effective leaders. It is a never-ending process of self-study, education, training, and experience. No resting on our laurels for us. Before we go further, let's define leadership. One definition is that it is a process by which a person influences others to accomplish an objective and directs the group in a way that makes it more cohesive and coherent. Leaders carry out this process by applying their beliefs, values, ethics, knowledge, and skills. Although we may already have the authority to accomplish certain tasks and objectives in our group, this power does not make us a leader. It simply makes us the boss. A leader is different from a boss in that she or he makes the followers want to achieve high goals, rather than simply doing what they are told. There are 3 basic ways to explain how people become leaders. The first is having personality traits that guide them naturally into leadership roles, the trait theory. The second way is experiencing a crisis or important events that bring out hitherto unknown leadership qualities in an otherwise ordinary purpose, great events theory. And the last is choosing to acquire leadership skills through education, transformational leadership theory. When a person is deciding if she or he respects you as a leader, she or he probably isn't thinking about your attributes, but instead relies on observation. This reveals whether you are honorable and can be trusted as a leader, or are a self-serving person who misuses authority to look good and receive undue accolades. Ironically, a self-serving leader can still be effective for a period of time. The basis of good leadership is honorable character and selfless service to your group. To other members, your leadership is everything you do that affects the group's objectives and the individual's well-being. Respected leaders concentrate on what they are, such as beliefs and character, what they do, such as implementing new projects, motivating group members, and providing direction. People want to be guided by those they respect and who have a clear sense of direction. Therefore, the most important skills as a leader are the ability to be trustworthy and to communicate the vision of where the group needs to go. How do you achieve maximum ability with these skills? Number 1, know yourself and seek continual self-improvement. Seeking self-improvement means constantly strengthening your abilities through study, self-reflection, and interacting with others. 2, be technically proficient. As a leader, you must know your job and have a solid familiarity with every task those around you are doing. This does not mean that you have to be able to do it, just that you know how it's supposed to be done. 3, take responsibility for your actions. When things go wrong, as they always do sooner or later, do not blame others. Analyze the situation, take corrective action, and move on to the next challenge. Number 4, make sound decisions. Use good problem-solving, decision-making, and planning tools. Number 5, be the example. Be a good role model for your group members. They must not only hear what they are expected to do, but also see. Number 6, keep the group informed. Know how to communicate with them rather than dictate. Number 7, develop a sense of responsibility in others. Help them develop their abilities as leaders as well as their responsibilities to themselves. Leadership styles. Every leader has a manner of providing direction, implementing plans, and motivating people. Good leaders tend to use more than one, depending on the circumstance, but there will be a baseline from which she or he operates. Kurt Lewin and colleagues did leadership decision experiments in 1939 and identified 3 different styles of leadership, in particular around decision making. 1. Authoritarian, most commonly seen when the group structure is based on a triangle. 2. Participative, most often seen in circle structures. And 3. Free rein, most often seen in free-form groups. Authoritarian is the leader imposing will on the member. Participative means that the leader and the member are on equal footing, and direction can come from either side. Free rein. This can mean that the member is teaching the leader. Authoritarian or autocratic. The authoritarian style is that of the sergeant at arms. This is the do this, do that, and get it done now method. And the leader rarely asks for advice or input from group members. It is ideal for getting things done quickly when the leader already has the information needed to make the best decision, or is perhaps the only person qualified to answer the question, and the group members are motivated. Despite my use of the military image, being autocratic does not mean that yelling, putting people down, or making threats is usual. That is a bully's version, the dark side of the otherwise useful way to deal with specific occasions. The authoritarian style should only be used on rare occasions, as it will encourage a culture of following and dependence. A subgroup of the authoritarian leader is the charismatic leader. This type of leader gathers followers by exerting charm rather than exercising any form of external power or authority. She or he may engender trust through physical self-sacrifice and taking personal risks in the name of his or her beliefs, and will often show great confidence in specific followers. Charismatic leaders tend to be very persuasive and often effectively use body language as well as verbal language. Many politicians use a charismatic style as they need to gather a large number of followers. Religious leaders, too, may well use charisma, as do cult leaders. Charismatic leaders who are building a group will often focus on making the group very distinct from other groups. They then build the image of the group as being far superior to all others. This leader will typically attach him or herself firmly to the identity of the group, such that to join the group is to become one with the leader. In doing so, he or she creates an unchallengeable position for himself or herself. Participative, democratic. The participative style is that one of the diplomat. Here, the leader includes one or more members in the decision-making process. Usually, the leader retains the final decision-making authority. This is the best style to use when the leader has part of the information, but not all, and other members likely have the other parts. This can be an ideal style because of its mutual benefit. It allows members to better understand your role, increase their sense of participation, and provides the leader with better information with which to make decisions. It can run into trouble when the leader asks for far too much information or doesn't like the advice given. It can also be slow and is particularly in comparison with the authoritarian style. A subtype of the participative leader is the transformational leader. This type of leader starts with a vision, often radical, and excites and converts potential followers. The leader then sells the vision, using every opportunity to convince others to come on board the bandwagon. Transformational leaders are very careful about creating trust, and their personal integrity is a critical part of the package that they are selling. In effect, they are selling themselves as well as the vision. Overall, the leader balances his or her attention between action that creates progress and the mental happiness of his or her followers. Perhaps more than other approaches, these leaders are people-oriented and believe that success comes first and last through deep and sustained commitment. Their vision may be outward directed, change the world, but carries a tacit promise to the followers that they will also be transformed in some way, perhaps to be more similar to this amazing leader. In some respects, then, the followers are the product of the transformation. One of the traps of transformational leadership is that passion and confidence can easily be mistaken for truth and reality. Although it is true that great things have been achieved through enthusiastic leadership, it is also true that many passionate people have led the charge right over the cliff and into a bottomless chasm. Just because someone believes she or he is right does not mean that she or he is right. Another subtype is the quiet leader. This type of leader is the antithesis of both the charismatic and transformational leaders. Quiet leaders base their success on actions and, to a lesser degree, their thoughts. They are strongly task-focused and tend to persuade people through rational argument and a form of benevolent dictatorship. An example of a quiet leader comes from the Taoist writings of Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching. Tzu describes this leader as barely known, trusting and trusted, action-oriented without unnecessary speech, and virtually invisible. For people accustomed to an extroverted, charismatic style, a quiet style can be very confusing, and they may downplay the person, which is usually a mistake. Successful quiet leaders often invoke values to persuade others. The difficulty here is when a group falls into a pattern of peace at all costs, and any form of conflict or challenge is discouraged. Free rein, delegative. The free rein leader allows and encourages group members to make decisions. This is an ideal situation when members are able to analyze the situation and determine what needs to be done and how to do it. It is a difficult style to manifest in most situations as it requires the full trust and confidence of its members. A subtype of the free rein leader is the servant leader, increasingly found in nonprofits and religious organizations. Here, leadership is based on the premise that she or he who leads serves. By assisting others to achieve and improve and ultimately become servant leaders themselves, the servant leader fulfills his or her role. This role is aligned with a transformational leader in that personal growth and evolution is encouraged, as does the quiet leader. However, the servant uses collaboration and commitment as the basic decision-making process. The servant leader uses community building to create environments of trust and frequently focuses on nurturing the spirit. An example of a servant leader is Ernest Shackleton, the early 20th century explorer who, after his ship became frozen in the Antarctic, brought every one of his 27-member crew home alive. A trip that included an 800-mile journey in open boats across the winter Antarctic seas. It took 2 years, but Shackleton's sense of responsibility towards his men never wavered. Servant leadership is a morality-based role, one in which the well-being of the followers is more important than other goals. It is a natural model for working in the public sector. Balancing the needs of the bottom line against individual well-being is usually too stressful to accomplish. The trap for this style of leader is the assumption that the followers want to change, and to what degree or in what manner. As well, there is a difficult question of just what better is, and who decides what makes it better. Leadership style assessment. Answer the following questions with always, often, sometimes, or never, going with your first response. Keep in mind that there's no right answer, just indications of your personal style. As a leader, I tend to 1. Make my own decisions. 2. Tell others what to do. 3. Suggest a decision to others. 4. Persuade others to do things my way. 5. Participate equally. 6. Provide resources to others. 7. Gather feedback before deciding. 8. Rely on my own judgment. 9. Make sure the majority rules. 10. Turn decisions over to others. 11. Ask others to brainstorm choices. 12. Share my own ideas. Now, assign numbers to the answers. Always is 4, often is 3, sometimes is 2, and never is 1. Add the numbers together and the following groups for the following groups of questions. Questions 1, 2, 4, and 8. Questions 3, 7, 9, and 11. Questions 5, 6, 10, and 12. If your highest number comes from the first group, you lean autocratic. If your highest number comes from the second group, you lean participatory. If your highest number comes from questions, then you lean as a free-rein leader. Good leaders use a combination of all styles, changing modes as the situation requires it. Some examples include using an authoritarian style when starting in a group, perhaps relying on a charismatic person to reach out to new members and provide the vision. Maybe switching to a participating mood after the group is settled. Here, the transformational leader begins to assess the deeper needs of the group members and move to create solutions. Lastly, transforming the group into one where the servant leader manifests, creating a culture of deep reverence for positive personal transformation. A sign of an inexperienced leader, or a bad one, is a tendency just to stick with one style. And that is the end of chapter 4.